In this video, I'm going to go over the review questions for our first unit test on equations. So the first question is asking us to find the equation of the line with the given information. So when it gives you 2 points that it's passing through, the first thing I'm going to do is I need to know that I'm going to eventually be using point slope form. And in order to use point slope form to get to slope intercept form, I need a point and a slope. Well, I'm actually given 2 points. So I really just need to find the slope first, which is the change in y. So y sub 2 minus y sub 1 over the change in x. And it doesn't matter how you organize this, whether you think 1 comma negative 2 is your first point or your second point, doesn't matter. I usually just give it to use the order that was given to me. So my change in y is 4 minus negative 2, and my change in x is 2 minus a positive 1. So 4 minus negative 2 is actually 4 plus 2, which is 6. 2 minus 1 is 1, so my slope is 6. So now I have a slope. I have 2 points to choose from. So I'm going to write down point slope form, which is y minus y sub 1 equals m times x minus x sub 1. And you can choose the point 1 comma negative 2 or 2 comma 4. It doesn't matter. I'm going to choose the first point, 1 comma negative 2. So when we did this in class, don't forget that when I plug in my x and y into my y sub 1 and x sub 1, I need to think opposite. So my y sub 1 value is going to be opposite. So this negative 2 is actually going to be y plus 2. My slope is m, and then x minus that positive 1. Okay, distribute the 6, which is 6x minus 6. Move the 2 over with subtraction. All right, so 6x, and then move the 2 over subtraction. Negative 6 minus 2 is negative 8. So this is my equation in slope intercept form, right? That's slope intercept form, or y equals mx plus b. Okay, let's do some graphing. Graph the line that's in slope intercept form. So remember, slope intercept form is y equals mx plus b, where m is the slope. All right, so this is the slope, and b is the y-intercept. Okay, so if I write down these two things, my slope in this problem is negative 4/3, and my y-intercept is 0, 4. So to graph it, I'm going to go to 0, 4, which is here, put a dot. And then because my slope is negative, I'm going to go up my rise value of 4 units and then move left 3 units. So up 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 1, 2, 3 units over. I would do that again, but I'm off the grid. So to go get another point to graph, I'm going to go back to my y-intercept and go down 4 units and then right 3 units. And keep doing that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. One more time. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. All right, and then I'm going to make my line. So this is graphing a line that's in slope intercept form. Okay? All right, so that was the first section, 2.2. So now we're going to go to the next section of 2.4, which was performing operations with complex numbers. So you'll see I have all 4 operations. I have addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. All right, so let's go over how to do those. So the first one is subtraction. So 9 minus 4 is 5. Remember, I'm subtracting or adding the real pieces together first. Then in this case, I'm subtracting the imaginary pieces, which is negative I minus a negative 7i. Well, subtracting a negative is actually adding a positive. So it would really be negative I plus 7i, which is going to be plus 6i. Let's do the addition one. Again, real to real. 2 plus negative 5 is negative 3. And then 3i plus negative 8i is negative 5i. All right, so hopefully you'll get those correct. Those are supposed to be the more straightforward ones. Multiplication is a little bit more challenging. We're going to distribute first. So 4 times negative 3 is negative 12. 4 times 2i is 8i. Negative 3i times negative 3 is plus 9i. And then negative 3i times 2i is negative 6i squared. Don't forget that I squared is going to be replaced with a real number of negative 1. So that's going to make that turn that into positive 6. And now I'm going to just combine my like terms. Negative 12 plus 6 is negative 6. And 8i plus 9i is plus 17i. All right, so division is very similar to what we just did with multiplication. The only difference is I first need to write down my conjugate of my denominator. And my conjugate of 2 plus I is going to be 2 minus I. Right, if I do that, when I multiply my two denominators together, I will get rid of my imaginary pieces. All right, so do the same thing to the top. So I'm going to do two separate multiplications here. So 2 plus I, times 2 minus I. 2 times 2 is 4. 2 times negative I is negative 2i. I times 2 is positive 2i. And then I times negative I is negative I squared. You already notice that my middle pieces are going to make 0. This is minus a negative 1. Don't forget that it's minus a negative 1. So this really becomes 4 plus 1, which is 5. All right, because my two middle pieces, negative 2i plus 2i, made 0. Do the same thing for the numerator. 3 minus 4i times 2 minus I. So 3 times 2 is 6. 3 times negative I is negative 3i. Negative 4i times 2 is negative 8i. Negative 4i times negative I is plus 4i squared. Replace the I squared with a negative 1. So that's going to become minus 4. 6 minus 4 is 2. And negative 3i minus 8i is negative 11i. So you can put these over each other. The 2 minus 11i is my new numerator. And my new denominator is 5. All right. In Delta Math, when you did this, there was some reducing that needed to happen. For my test, all you got to do is leave it like that. That'll get you full credit. Okay, let's move into our last 3 questions, which was moving into quadratics and then solving some other equations besides quadratics. So the first one, number 7, is I want you to solve this quadratic by factoring. So I'm going to write down my 2 binomial parentheses here. So I need factors of 5 that add to 6. Factors of 5 that add to 6, which is going to be x plus 5 and x plus 1. 5 times 1 is 5. 5 plus 1 is 6. So set each of those equal to 0. And when you do that, you get your two solutions, x equals negative 5 and x equals negative 1. Now, number 8 wants me to use the quadratic formula. So make sure you remember the quadratic formula. If you need to sing it, right, make sure you sing it. X is equal to the opposite of b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. You can always use that to help you. In this case, I don't need to move anything over. It's already equal to 0. So my a is going to be 2, my b is going to be negative 9, and my c is negative 2. So plugging in, the opposite of negative 9 is positive 9. Plus or minus the square root of, don't forget that negative 9 needs to be in parentheses, b squared, minus 4 times a of 2 times c of negative 2, all over 2 times a, which is 4. Okay, so I have 9 plus or minus the square root of, that's going to be 81. This is going to become addition because a negative 4 times positive 2 times negative 2 has actually become a positive number. So 4 times 2 is 8. 8 times 2 is 16, all over 8. So x equals 9 plus or minus the square root of 97 all over 8. And that is your solution. All right, the very last one, solving a radical equation. The first thing you need to do is always isolate the radical. So I'm going to move this 13 over with subtraction. When I do that, I get the square root of 3x plus 84, still in the radical, equals 22 minus 13, which is 9. I'm going to square both sides. By squaring this left side, I'll get rid of that radical, that square root symbol. So I'll have just 3x plus 84 equals 81. Move the 84 over with subtraction. 81 minus 84 is a negative 3, so x equals negative 1. Guys, that is it. If you can do these problems, you are going to be great on the test. Good luck.